it's extraordinarily hard to make a living building one guitar at a time. There was no way I was going to be able to make enough money to raise a family and do that. I mean, literally my tax returns in the early days when I was making guitars for Carlos Santana was like, $8,000 a year, $10,000 a year, $12,000 a year. It was $15,000 a year. It wasn't enough money to have a house. It wasn't enough money to have a car payment. It just wasn't going to work. So it was either get another job or start the company to keep the art to survive. I mean, the goal of a business really is to make a profit, but the goal of PRS when we started was to keep that art of those guitars alive. And then, when it comes to Christmas bonuses and God knows how many other things, then you have to be profitable. Learning the art of running a business has been very difficult, and I understand why a lot of guitar makers don't want to have 185 people making guitars. It creates a set of problems that have nothing to do with guitar making. But that was the path I chose, and it seems to be going okay. Sometimes, I have a pipe dream. I'll just get a little shop, and I'll have a room the size of this room we're filming in, and I'll build guitars again, one by one. I don't think that's in the cards right now. I just don't see it. I see that the leadership of my company and the leadership of the industry and trying to make sure that we build instruments that are extraordinarily good tools for musicians to make a living on. That umbrella view for me, I'm good at and I enjoy it, and I think that that's where I'm going to be doing it. I think the chances of me going back to a one-man shop right now are not high. They're very low. I think that the business has a weight to carry. We've got 185 people, and I'd be letting a lot of people down if I did that. And very hard to make a living that way. Very, very, very difficult. And these guys that are 8 years backward have my complete respect. It's not so easy. If I didn't have the belief that we could do it, if I didn't have the belief that we could make them better, if I didn't think that we could compete at an extraordinarily high level, if I didn't think we could make instruments at a very high level, I wouldn't have the drive to do what we've done. So is that attitude? Yeah, it's probably pure and simple the attitude Ted's talking about. Do I need to have the kind of boldness that a rock musician who plays a concert has when he steps out on the stage and says, "Baby, you are mine," and he's talking about 20,000 people, right? No, yes, no. I mean, in a way, we put our guitars up and the guitars do the talking. And I think that you've got to be willing to make some very bold statements and take some risks. We have a new guitar called a 513, which I think is a very bold statement and it's got a lot of attitude because we're basically trying to rewrite the rules a little bit. This blue jean color, it's rewriting. It's got some attitude to it. That we're going to make a guitar look like a pair of jeans. It doesn't come from that. Really, it is the kind of soul-searched encyclopedia of information and the determination and the intelligence and the craftsmanship and the care and the love that you have to put into these things to get them to turn out okay. So, is that attitude? Yeah, maybe. He's probably dead on. He's probably got his finger right on the button, but how you interpret that statement, I would be very careful at. If a guitar maker is talked about, they say, "Oh yeah, they make guitars for blah 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 blah," and those are really endorsements. That, let's say James Taylor bought a guitar from somebody. Well, if you respect James Taylor's musicianship, then you must, on some level, respect that he bought an instrument from this maker and he's satisfied with the instrument, and that says something about the guitar. So I think that the artists have an impact on the business, and the impact that they have is very important. How do those artists have an effect on the guitars? Well, David Grissom called and said he wanted some changes made to the guitars he was buying, so we ended up coming up with the McCarty model. There have been changes made to the Tremonti model for Mark. Carlos has had a lot of requests. The musicians are very specific about what they want, and we try to satisfy that. Carlos put those early guitars away. He knows what they're worth, and he doesn't take them on the road anymore. He's playing the new stuff. Actually, Carlos has come into the shipping department, pulled out a turquoise Santana, put it in the back of his limo, taken it to the gig, had it tuned up, and played it, most of the night. That was a very good sign. We don't think we've lost the art. We think the art is evolving. We think it's moving. We think it's coming along. We think we're doing a good job with it. We think we're learning all the time. The instrument I'm playing is a new instrument, not an older instrument. If I thought the older one was better, I'd be playing it. I'm not bothered by the fact that collectors buy the guitars. I think it's very cool. I once walked into a booth at a vintage guitar show and was a bunch of old Esquires, and none of them had any scratches or dings in them. They were all mint condition. And I played them all, and they all sounded really bad. And I realized that the players had picked those ones up and used them, and they didn't like them, so it became part of a collection, right? If a player runs across one of those guitars in one of those collections, he'll talk the collector out of it. I'm not worried about it. I think it's great that people think that they're worth the money. I think it's great that the collectors want to collect them. I think it's great that a player wants to play them. It's interesting, the guitar player in Nickelback is playing one of these private stock type guitars. He's gotten to this position in life, he wants to have a really, really nice guitar. Some of these guitar players, we thought they were going to want, the cheaper guitars, but then when they finally get a guitar, I want one of the really nice ones. That's new. Used to be, Eddie Van Halen once said to me, he says, don't you have something with some bark on it? He wanted something that was not so beautiful. Because that was the times, but those days are gone. People like to play in beautiful instruments.